Hello, Mutts. We are here with a mini-sode. I am Devin Shepherd,
And I'm David B. Jacobs.
and this is a special mini-sode because it is our dun da 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 third anniversary of being
Woohoo!
podcasters. I had to ask David before we started recording. I was like, "What year anniversary is this?"
And I said it's 2024.
It's just so crazy that it's been 3 years already. I feel like a whole lifetime has gone by since we started this pod.
Yeah. Yeah, this has just been such a consistent thing in my life. I mean, this is just post-COVID. All this is all post-COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah.
post-shutdown.
Yeah.
And, I do have to celebrate also celebrate may not be the right word, but I have to, give us props for going for this whole past year, just you and me after
Yeah.
Rob left us so sadly. He's not dead, he just left the podcast to do cooler things, it's fine. Not cooler
Which,
things.
like, same thing, really.
Yeah, he's not dead to us technically.
We still see him.
We still see him. We need to watch more horror movies together, though.
Definitely. We always need to watch more horror movies. There's no such thing as too many horror movies.
I know, I know. I feel like the bulk of horror movies I actually watch for this podcast, which is really bad.
Interesting. I vary a lot. Sometimes I'm watching so many movies, and other times, like this past month, I've just been playing video games, so I've been watching less movies.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
much it. It's like I think especially for the past few months, I was like watching all the Oscar contenders and like
Yep.
there's so many new movies coming out. It's hard being a horror fan and a movie fan in general,
Is it?
just because I feel like I always want to watch horror, but I always also want to watch comedy and thriller and drama and like the acclaimed films that horror movies are still acclaimed films, but the ones that everyone else talks about.
Horror movies are not as acclaimed as they should be sometimes.
No, they're not. They really
Yes.
aren't.
I'm sure we'll have movies on our lists that were not acclaimed on release or something, because that happens a lot when the horror movie is released and all the critics are like, "Oh, this is bad," and then it's like a classic.
Yeah, it happens every time. Oh yeah, you
Every
mentioned
time.
lists. I guess I should say what we're doing for our special anniversary.
Yeah, let's go for it.
We thought that it would be fun, albeit extremely hard, to name our top 5 horror movies of all time.
Which we've never done on this pod.
Yeah, and I think the reason why, David, and you can tell me how you felt while creating this list, but I know we say every single top 3 list we make is hard. This one was beyond difficult for me to get.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel like my top 4 is pretty consistent, but my 5th swaps around a lot. So I'm still, as we talk, when we get to me doing my number 5, I'm just gonna decide in that moment what movie it will be.
I kind of feel the same way. My top 3 were an obvious lock, and
Fair.
4 and 5 were like I wanted to stay true. Oh, this was something that I wanted to talk to you about, actually. I wanted to stay true to, like, my actual top favorite because I know sometimes when we do a top 3 list, we're like, maybe I'll throw in, like I have too many from this specific era of filmmaking. Maybe I'll throw in, like, that
Mm,
era to try to, like, even it out." Or I
mm.
know David's gonna say this one, so I'm gonna say a different one.
There is one that I expect to be on both our lists.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. I have some theories on what's on your
Okay.
list. Is it fun if I try to guess?
It might be. Do we wanna try and guess each other's lists?
Oh, I don't know if I could guess your whole list, but I can guess a few.
Okay, what do you expect to be on my list? And I won't tell you if you're right or not.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, don't tell me if I'm right.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Baby Jane, I feel like has to be on there.
Okay.
Um, and which nightmare? Halloween obviously is on there. Oh shit! You always tell me what is it going to be two? It might be Nightmare 2. I feel like you respect that one a lot,
Hmm.
but you also really like. No, it's going to be Dream Warriors. It's got to be Dream Warriors. I don't know
Hmm.
why I questioned that. Okay, those are 3 that I feel solid that you have on your list.
Okay. I know Poltergeist will be on yours. I know The Omen will be on yours. I think Scream will be on yours.
Oh, I think Scream will be on yours too. Not verifying if it is or not on mine, but just saying
Same,
I'm
same.
having that. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't know. I thought Texas Chainsaw was going to be on your list, but then you told me it wasn't. um, which you had something to say about Texas Chainsaw, though, did you not?
Oh, yeah, I did. Sorry, we're bouncing around today, guys. We're
That's
just so
okay.
excited.
This is an anniversary mini-sode. It's more casual. We're just like talking and having a conversation and having fun.
It's our anniversary. We can do whatever we
It
want.
is. What was the actual I think our first release was May 20th, 2021.
Oh my god, do you want me to fact check this live? I did not look that up. Oh, it was May 20th was when Eat the Rich came out.
Okay, I know things.
You nailed it. But yeah, you're right. I did have something to say. Yeah, I gotta go to Kingsland, which is where they shot some of, if not all of, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. And I gotta go to the house that they shot at. They took the house and they made it into a restaurant. So now it's like, I thought it was gonna be a little grungier. It's kind of nice inside. It's called Hooper's, obviously. And unfortunately, it is a burger and steak kind of restaurant. So you eat meat.
Well, I would assume so. It's Texas Chainsaw. My concern is what kind of meat it is.
Yes. I told my dad we were gonna go, and my dad was like, "Oh, that's gross." And I'm like, "Dad, they didn't actually eat people in the movie." But yeah, it was fun. I We were visiting my boyfriend's grandparents 2 hours outside, and I requested that his grandmother drive us to Kingsland. She's like, "Oh, sure, honey, that's fine." Nice Texan lady.
Mm.
Um
Does she like the movie?
she's never seen it, and she didn't question my horror fandom, which I very much
That's
appreciate because I
good.
was like, "I know this is weird." But, I try to back it up by being like, "Look, the other thing about this is that Texas Chainsaw Massacre did so much for the independent film community, especially the independent film community in Texas. It means a lot. It changed a lot about the landscape of indie films, that it actually is really important to, I think, filmmakers in general that
It is.
we honor this film."
Yes. Not that they'll mention it, but not that they will honor it, but yeah.
Not
Um
Yeah, but they should.
Yes.
I wish they did more with the restaurant. They had, like, only, like, a place upstairs where you could sign a guest book and mark where you're from on the map, and they have grandpa, and he scared the shit out of me because you go upstairs and he's sitting in the corner behind you, and I turned around and went, "Ah!" It scared the shit out of me. It
Amazing.
was fun, and my friend who's from Texas, Karina, shout out, she was like, "Oh, did you go to the gas station?" Had no idea that there was a gas station where they filmed, and it's like a barbecue and, like, kind of more cool where they have more of the TCM stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah, whatever.
Well
People should go though.
well, one more shout out. If we do release this on May 16th, then according to my calendar, that is the day when we're celebrating our friend Chloe's birthday. So happy birthday, Chloe.
Oh, happy birthday, Chloe. That's a good shout out.
Because she's definitely listening to this right now.
Yes, and for those of you who are like, "Who's Chloe?" Chloe's been on the pod a couple times? One time?
We did talk to me. I don't know if she's been on since then. She'll probably be on again soon, though.
She'll be on again soon. Teaser, teaser. And it was Allison's birthday, friend of the pod, a couple weeks ago.
Yes, it was.
Happy birthday, Allison, because who is also listening.
Definitely.
Oh, and actually with that, we're talking about doing a New York City slash tri-state area podcaster meetup, horror podcaster meetup. So if anyone listening has a horror podcast and is in the area and interested in getting together and having a few beers and talking horror movies, reach out to us. So it would be fun to organize that.
And where can they reach out to us, Devin?
And you can reach out to us at cadaverdogspodcast@gmail.com. And while we're here, actually, you can also DM us at cadaverdogspod on Instagram and Cadaver Dogs Podcast on TikTok and YouTube. We're also kind of on Twitter at cadaverdogspod.
Don't DM us on YouTube. We won't get that.
Yeah, you can listen to us on YouTube and like and subscribe.
Anyway,
Anyway, back to our top 5. I did wanna ask you, so I feel like the thing with breaking down, like, a favorite film, I'm curious how you look at it in terms of, like, what are, like, the criteria that you use to judge if this movie should sit in your favorite films?
so one thing is that I'm not gonna put in anything that I've only seen once.
Yeah.
Especially if I've seen it recently, like, it's not gonna make my favorites automatically because I need to know that I repeatedly enjoy it for, like, favorite.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, and, I mean, it needs to be, like, part of me, I think. Like, these are the movies that will, like, kind of define me in a way,
Mm.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. For me, what is a part of me or a movie that defines me is like one that either I relate to like on an emotional level or like a mental
Yeah.
level or like a philosophy level or one that like shaped and made me think differently and like shaped me into the viewer slash person that I am because like a movie can do that.
Yeah. It weirdly does not necessarily need to be flawless for me.
Mm.
Like I'm able to be critical of my favorite movies and I mean some of them are absolutely flawless, but some of them I'll be like, yeah, this part maybe could be a little bit stronger, but I'm not really bothered. I care more about the movie's strengths than its weaknesses, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with all your points. And I think the other factor that I was considering when judging all these films were if they brought me joy. I know that feels very Marie Kondo, but like it's true. Like I feel like if anything reaches my favorite list, it's because I'm happy while watching it. I could feel many other things while watching it as well, but at the end of the day, I'm like happy I watched it.
With that, can I ask you what your number 5 is?
Yes, you can. Shit. Um
It's time to decide.
Okay, I'm gonna go with this one. I was in between 2. Unfortunately, David, The Omen did not make my top 5 this year.
Really? I thought it was gonna be,
I
like, number
know.
2, okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I haven't watched it in so long that I think it's kind of
That's
knocked down
fair.
a little bit. It is number 6. I will say that, it is number
Okay.
6. My number 5 is Tusk.
Oh my I did not expect that.
It has made its way up to 5. It's been solidly sitting in my top 15 for since it came out, and I think, like, over the years, I've just grown such a fondness to the movie, and I think all the conversations of, like, trying to get people to understand this movie and to watch this movie and for it being so weird and unique,
It
and
is.
it makes me so happy every time I watch it that I'm like, it has to go up here."
Yes. There's a spider. Oh, man. I remember watching a movie in theaters, and, like, for those who haven't seen a movie, there's a really long scene in the middle that, like, has nothing to do with anything, where Johnny Depp meets Michael Park, and Michael Park just, like, rants about spiders for, like, 5 minutes, and Johnny Depp's just like, "Oh, okay," and then leaves, and it's a completely useless scene that doesn't do anything for the movie. Kevin Smith, who wrote and directed the movie, literally said, like, I should have cut that scene out or at least trimmed it down. However, Johnny Depp agreed to do this movie because he really liked Michael Park and wanted to do a scene with him, and that was, like, the only scene that they really shared. So I felt like I had to include the scene in the movie, and I'm very happy that he did because it's the best scene in the movie. It's just so
It's so ridiculous.
perfectly encaptures the essence of what this film is, which is just meaningless, ridiculous brilliance.
It's so good, and yeah, I mean, like, that just, like, all the ridiculousness and somehow Kevin Smith is always good at making a film t or, like, an audience have such a good time in the movie theater and, like, really does make movies that are unlike any others. I mean, the sequel, Yoga Hosers, I don't know if you
Yeah, I've seen it.
yeah, or prequel? Yeah, that movie is its own beast.
It's not
Anyway,
as good.
it's not as good,
Yeah.
but it's weird and fucking fun.
I can't decide, is Tusk a So Bad It's Good movie?
No, no. No, because I think the different I don't know, So Bad It's Good movie, I feel like we were talking about this a little bit when we saw Tarot.
Mm,
I won't spoil anything about Tarot. Definitely a fun time in the theater. I think a So Bad It's Good movie, it can't be trying to be bad,
mm.
you
That's
know?
fair. Yeah.
And not that this one's trying to be bad, it's just, like, celebrating the campiness
Yeah,
and,
that's
like,
fair.
its meaningful camp.
I
Yeah.
do think Taro is So Bad It's Good.
I don't know, I feel like they tried to be comedic. I wonder if it was, like, halfway through the edit, they were like, "Oh, shit, this is funny. We gotta make it a funny movie."
It's
Like,
wonderful.
they realized it was bad and then leaned into it.
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, David, hit us with your number 5.
My number 5 is Night of the Living Dead, which I
Ah.
decided 5 minutes ago.
Do you wanna shout out the other 2 you were in between?
There was more than 2. There was Reanimator, there was Alien, and there was The Fly were
Okay,
all in
okay.
my considerations. And then I thought, "Oh, Night of the Living Dead. I should put that one in there." My number 5 alternates a lot. So Night of the Living Dead is what I'm going with. First off, brilliant. I love black and white filmmaking, obviously. My next short film is
Me
gonna
too.
be in black and white and 4:3. It's a weird movie because it feels like it's in between old Hollywood and new Hollywood, and it creates this really uncanny feeling to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, like we were talking about with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead also did so much for independent cinema
Yeah.
and specifically for Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania cinema.
And especially for public domain cinema because they fucked up the copyright paperwork, which is why the movie's in public domain and George Romero did not get paid for the movie because they fucked up the copyright paperwork.
It's okay, they have so many remakes that people are making money off of.
Yeah, they wound up doing fine after Dawn. But Night of the Living Dead, it has, like, this filmmaking style of old Hollywood, like, it almost feels in some ways like a Universal monster movie, except it's so much more brutal and oppressive, and, like, even without being overly gory, the, like, little flashes of gore you see are almost, like, more disturbing than they would be otherwise
Mm,
because of the style of the movie, because it, like, tricks your brain into not expecting anything like that, so that even no matter how many times I've seen it, it still feels so fresh and unique.
yeah.
It has like, you can analyze this movie to death. We haven't done an episode on it yet, we might at some point. Maybe, who knows? But it's like all the characters in it just create this little tiny society within it. I feel like it's a cliche at this point, like, oh, it's a zombie movie, but the real monsters are the humans. Like that's all in this first movie. The real conflict of the film is just this bottle of the like I think 7 people trapped in this house and trying to get along to survive and
Mhm.
just failing at that. Like, that's the real essence of the film.
Yeah, and obviously revolutionized zombies. Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
such a good one to have on your list that I think. It speaks, volumes about you also and your taste in film because I like how you're like, "It's in between old Hollywood and new," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's David."
Yeah, yeah, that's me. I love that, and I love the bending the expectations,
Yeah.
and I think it's easy to watch the movie now and sort of, like, dismiss it because we've seen it done so many times, but even then, we really haven't. I feel like all the ripoffs of it haven't really recaptured what made this movie so special.
Yeah, I agree. They're different. They've all been so modernized that, like, nothing's really come back to the core, which, like, I appreciate. Like, I don't think that,
Yeah,
like,
no,
if
we
you
don't
try to
need to.
recreate it, yeah, it's not gonna happen.
I mean, there is literally a remake, which is good.
Yeah, yeah, but it's
It's not
not,
the same.
okay, that's a good one to kick us off. I'm gonna move us to my number 4.
Go for it. Go
Uh,
for
go for it. It is Frankenhooker.
Yes! Oh, man, you're going for all the crazy ones.
I Yeah, my last 2 are definitely more comedic, nutty.
Mm.
Look, here's the other thing with making this list is I have so many different tastes of horror. Like I like all the horror for the most part. I needed to get something that was representative of my tastes. And Frankenhooker again is one of those films that I just always go back to. And if, I want to show people a horror movie that I really love and they don't like horror or say they don't like horror, I'm like, okay, then we're watching Frankenhooker because it's a brilliant fucking movie and you're gonna love it.
And this
And,
is one that we've covered, by the way.
yes. That's actually a really popular episode, for
Oh,
anyone
really?
who
Cool.
hasn't listened to it, yeah. We paired it with
Audition.
Audition.
Aren't we weird that we paired Frankenhooker with Audition? We're so unique.
I would say that we're made up of a bunch of different things, David.
Many different parts.
Pots.
Yes, parts. I need more parts.
Frankenhooker is just one of those movies that I think is so it encapsulates this, like, love of cinema, that I appreciate so much, and just, like, the joy that you need to have in the theater and to not always take everything seriously, but at the same time, like, a love letter to horror and science fiction and Frankenstein, obviously. Yeah, it's just one I always have such a fun time watching it, and there is just, like, nothing like the crackhead hookers blowing up scene.
It's brilliant, just amazing, wonderful, love it.
And obviously the performances, we're always going to credit that. This is
Yep.
an iconic character, iconic.
Wonderful.
I'm so happy that we got to cover it and like dig deeper into the meaning behind it.
It's such a feminist movie.
It is. Look, it is. And
It
if you
is.
want to hear our arguments about it, go listen to the episode.
Oh my god. Yeah, and I know Frankenstein is a big part of you as well.
Yes, it is a big part
Yes.
of me. As I think like it kind of has to be. It's a big part of the genre, you know?
That's true, yes. And you made a movie about Frankenstein, well, about Mary Shelley.
And there's also that. And one would think
Yeah.
that I'd be so scarred that I can't ever watch a Frankenstein film again, but that would be too difficult to avoid Frankenstein
Yep,
altogether.
that's fair. And for those who haven't seen Devin's Mary Shelley movie, it is A Nightmare Awakes. It is now streaming on Shudder. Check that out.
Thank you. Oh, it's also available, like, if you just wanna pay, what, $4 and rent it, you can get it on Amazon and stuff.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Thanks, David. Alright, David, what's your number 4?
My number 4, as you predicted, is Halloween.
Oh, 4. Oh, interesting.
Oh,
Oh,
you thought it
no,
would be
okay.
higher?
I was gonna guess 3 would probably be the highest that it went, but
Mm.
okay, okay.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Number 4, Halloween. Um, it's Halloween.
Enough said.
No, it's a lot of the movies that I'm picking are gonna be, like, the really iconic ones that are obvious, so it's almost so many things have been said about these movies, it's hard to say anything unique, but I feel like what is not talked about often enough with Halloween is that it's kind of surrealist? Like, not
Yeah.
explicitly so, but the more you look at it, the more it's like, "Oh, that's, like, a weird" like, there are a lot of weird shots in it, there's a lot of very carefully composed and beautiful things going on, and, like, it is literally Michael Myers is not a character in this movie. It's not a slasher where he is a human being who's coming to kill you. It's a slasher where he is the literal embodiment of evil that is coming to kill you. Like,
Yeah.
he is not a person. It's fascinating. I love it.
I never looked at it that way, but you're so right. And I wonder if the reason why like we don't usually consider it a surrealist film is because of how far away we are from the release of it that we just like look at those
Yeah.
movies differently or through a different
Especially
lens, yeah.
with all the repeated sequels, which are a mixed bag. Some of them are very good, some of them are very, very bad. And some of them are just cheesy and fun. But
Yeah.
they've definitely demystified Michael, I think. Even now, like, watching that movie, maybe every other watch, I'll be watching it and, like, seeing it fresh, and then every other watch, I'll be seeing it like, "Yeah, I've seen this movie a million times." I know it by heart, it's fine.
But it's definitely this one, and I know this is like repetitive and like everyone knows that Halloween is this, but like, yeah, it really is the movie that like if you were a teenager at that time, I'd be scared that something was out there trying to kill me, like
Mhm.
victimized because I was a teenager.
And we've had a couple of recent episodes where we're talking about suburbia.
Mhm.
We actually pitched Halloween, I think, as a potential one to cover for suburbia, but we didn't wind up
We
doing it.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is the suburban horror movie. It is the movie where he has the line that, "Oh, you're telling me all these houses are lined up for a massacre," and it is this manufactured reality that we have forced into the world that Michael is literally born out of and is now coming to kill them. It is taking apart the American dream and revealing it as like ugly and evil and inhuman.
Yes. That exact sentence actually goes to my number 1 as well, so I'm excited to make that connection. There are a lot of American dream suburbia movies that are
There
just
are indeed, yes.
so good.
Um,
All right, that's a classic. I also went with the classic for my number 3, actually,
perfect.
which I'm surprised that you didn't guess, but I will take that as respect because I know how much you
Interesting.
don't like this movie.
Oh,
It's The Exorcist.
I don't hate The Exorcist. I did not expect that to be in your top 5. When you phrased it that way, I thought you were gonna say The Strangers because I do hate The Strangers.
Oh, no. No. I this movie for me, like, it's always been in my favorite films in general. Never I guess the last time I ranked them was like 10 years ago, so it was never this high, but I've really been rewatching it a lot recently from just like a craft perspective, and for me, this is one of the films that is just like it's pretty much a perfect movie in terms of how they execute stuff, and I know you have thoughts about the preachiness, um, or the what you think is the preachiness of Catholicism, which if you wanna hear more about David's thoughts there, go listen to our Exorcist episode.
Yes.
But yeah, this is there are so many things every time I watch this movie, and this is something that's really important to me when it makes a top movie list, is that every time I watch it, I find new things and I find new themes or new comments about the world. And I also love that it kind of like defies its era a little bit and is like you are able to watch this in today's era and be able to make connection about humanity in the world at that time, and humanity in the world at this time as well, which goes to the root of it just being like a good versus evil film. Yeah, and the acting's superb, the craft is superb, the direction's superb, the script is so strong. I don't know. This is just the good movie for me.
Nice.
Dave's just like,
I mean,
"Yes."
I like it, like, it's well made.
It's well made.
Yeah, it's really well made. I don't wanna say anything mean about one of your favorite movies in our favorite movies
I don't
episode.
It's my opinion. I'm not gonna change it. Like, I'm not gonna feel offended also if, like, you don't we I would have said something way earlier if I was pissed off.
Um, it's good, I like it.
Look, if anything, and then we can move off of The Exorcist, but if anything, like I was saying, one could watch it and find new things in this movie every time they watch it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, the fact that you and I have such different opinions of the film says to me that the film is worth something and, like, says something strongly and is
Yeah.
good because it affects us in a strong way.
I do think a lot of it for me is that I was not raised Catholic,
Neither
and
was I.
eh, all the Catholic imagery just distances me from the movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Mm.
No, but I
Uh,
agree.
yeah.
I think it becomes Father Karras as the
Yeah.
titular character by the end of the yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can move off The Exorcist. What's your number 3?
Okay, my number 3, which might be your number 2 maybe, is Scream.
Yep,
It
yep.
is your number 2?
Yeah, that's my number 2.
Perfect. All works out. So, we were both correct that Scream is on both of our lists.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like this movie is actually, like, how we became friends, that it was already both of our among our favorite horror movies, and we kind of bonded over Scream when we first met.
Yeah, that's so funny. I think I've made more friends over Scream than any other movie, period.
Because you do the party.
Yes, but I think also just, like, people finding out that they're like, "Oh, you like Scream? I like Scream. Okay, we can be friends and then talk about Scream for hours."
Which is hilarious because it's, like, a really common movie to be a fan of.
I know. I was like, "Oh, I didn't think I was original. Okay."
Yeah, definitely not, like,
No.
you have a Scream 4 poster behind you right now, and
And
a
a stab
Stab
poster.
poster. Yeah, for those who don't know, Devin has a Stabathon party every Halloween, so, we hang out and we watch Scream movies.
It's my favorite event.
It's brilliant. And if you don't know where the title comes from, then you should go and watch all those movies right now.
Yeah, I think everyone is so excited to talk about Scream because I, well, again, it's a joyous movie. It's a joyous movie.
Yeah.
Um, it's another fun one. It is a comedy.
It is. It's a gateway
Comedy.
horror, I think.
Yeah,
It's a good one to show to someone that you're trying to get into horror because it's very accessible and easy to be like, "Oh, I get it." And it talks
you're
about the
right.
tropes. It introduces you to the tropes, some of which are a little
Exactly.
overblown. Um,
But I think you're right. It's like it for a person who doesn't normally watch horror, watching that movie and then being like, "Oh, I understand." Not only yeah, they can go in and not know horror and still like come out of it and understanding stuff, but also
yeah.
learning so much about horror and being like, "Oh, I get you now."
It kind of, like, justifies a lot of preconceptions that people have about
Mhm.
horror, while also subverting them at the same time.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. I also think it's one of the best whodunits ever.
It is. I don't know if we should say what happens. I assume everyone listening to our podcast has seen Scream, but I don't know. But when I first watched this movie, I was in high school. We were watching it like around Halloween, and I still remember this. We were like getting into the party stuff, and then I don't remember what happened, but something happened like in the real world where we didn't finish the movie. And it was like a year before I actually finished the movie.
And no one spoiled it for you? Oh, I
Nope,
love
no one
that.
spoiled it for me, and, like, it was still satisfying. I feel like after all that time, it should be like, "Oh, that was who it was? Okay." But it wasn't. I was like, "Wait, what?"
I know. Every time this is another one where every time I watch it, I get new things out of it. Because every time I watch it, I try to watch it like, "Okay, I'm gonna pretend I don't know the ending and
Mm,
see see who the film is trying to push me towards thinking who it is at that time." And everyone literally is a suspect in this movie, and the movie, like, does such a good job at making it true that, like, you can suspect anyone,
yeah.
and it does throw it I mean, like, it's just so good. It's just so good.
I was so thoroughly convinced of the person who I incorrectly thought it was, and when I rewatched the movie, I can still see all the, like, really subtle clues that made me think, like, okay, I like, it wasn't one of the obvious suspects who I went after, but you can see, like, oh, okay, well, if someone rules out all the obvious suspects, then who might they think it is? Okay, let's put in a little subtle red herrings to make
Yeah.
you think that this person is possible. And I was picking up on those, and I was like, it's that one. That's the killer." And I was wrong.
Exactly. No, exactly. People who are, like, good at spotting that kinda stuff, like, they're like, "Haha, I fooled you." It's like it takes its audience seriously and understands that its audience is smart,
Yep.
which very few movies do nowadays.
I will say the person I thought it was came back for the sequel, and actually a few sequels.
I think I know who you
Yeah, you
think
know
it
who I thought it was,
was.
right?
Yeah.
Alright, so that
Oh,
was
that was
my
my
number
number
3.
2.
Yeah, that was your number 2.
Okay, so just tell us your number 2.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you my number 2. And a slight disclaimer, my 1 and 2 either could have been either. Whenever someone asks me what my favorite horror movie is, I say one of these 2 movies, or I say both of them because I can't decide, because 'cause they're also really different from each other.
Oh, I wanna know if I'm right.
Well, there's a poster behind me.
Wow, I cannot believe that I didn't get I'm so dumb, David, I'm so dumb. I knew this. I knew this.
It's An American Werewolf in London.
I am staring at this poster and I didn't put it on my guess for your top movie, and I knew the answer to this one.
It's well, it's about a guy named David, an American named David from
And that's
Long
the only reason why
Island,
you like this movie.
who he has the same area code as me. He's Jewish.
Oh, no way.
He went to NYU.
Oh, he did.
He
He
did,
did.
which we both went to NYU, if you guys don't know. And then in London, he gets bitten by a werewolf. Well, not in London, in the Highlands, he gets bitten by a werewolf, and then he goes to London. And man, I love werewolves. And this is the perfect werewolf movie.
You went to London?
I did go to London. I did watch An American Werewolf in London while I was an American dot 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 in London.
This is when David reveals he's a werewolf.
Well, yeah, but um I like the duality of werewolves. I The best werewolf movies are the ones that follow the person who becomes a werewolf.
Mhm.
That you get to see that, like, conflict, and, this movie is also a comedy. This movie is very, very funny, and it has a lot of dry humor, and I think that's the thing. When I come back to it every time, I, like, forget how funny it is, and no matter how many times I see it, and it's also an effects extravaganza. It was made before CGI, which I love saying that to someone who first is watching the movie for the first time, just to watch their eyes go, like, super wide as they're like, "How is that possible?" Also, it's just so emotional and resonant, and heartbreaking and tragic. It's about a guy who's just trying to come to terms with himself, really. That
Mhm.
it's about him, like, confronting some inner darkness and, like, wishing he was better, but knowing that he can't be. And that's just so sad.
It is sad, but
Mm.
it's not a sad movie. But it is a sad
It's a
movie?
sad movie.
It's a sad movie. It's a sad movie with fun parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a fun, sad movie, which is a very weird mix of tones, and it plays that balance really, really well.
It
And
does.
I love movies that have that weird balance between Comedy and tragedy, which are really the same thing anyway. Comedy is tragedy plus timing. So, this is that movie. It lures you into this false sense of security, and then it just fucking hits you, and it's amazing and wonderful, and we should definitely cover that one someday.
I know, yeah, we should definitely
Yeah,
cover it. I'm surprised it's not your number 1, to be honest. Yeah, it's a good I mean, and the makeup in that movie is so great. I'm always a sucker for werewolf makeup because I
really.
feel like it's a certain kind of makeup that you see repeated. Everyone has their own take on it, and there's, like, a unique like, transformations are mostly unique, or at least when they are, they're so much more fun, and yeah, it's well done.
Yes. I saw this movie with Griffin Dunn, who plays Jack. I saw a Q&A with him last year, and it was great. He auditioned for Jack. At some point, they actually offered him the role of David that whoever they had cast wasn't able to do it, and they were like, "Griffin Dunn, do you want to actually just play the lead?" And he was like, "No, I want to play the funny one." And when he auditioned for the role, he, like, didn't really audition. John Landis, who is an asshole, basically just offered him the part. He was like, "Oh, are you claustrophobic?" And Griffin Dunn said, "No." And then it's like, "Okay, here's the script. Let us know what you think." And then he's like, "Okay, I wonder what the claustrophobia thing was. I guess it's gonna be, like, stuck in elevators," and then it's nothing like that at all, and it's like, "Alright, yeah, I'll take the part, but what was that thing about claustrophobia?" And John Landis goes, "Oh, you'll find out." It's because of the makeup.
Okay, I was like, "I think it's the makeup." Yes,
It's
okay,
the
okay.
makeup.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, good.
Specifically, it's when they make those prosthetics, they first need to do a plaster of your head. So they're literally like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
breathing through tubes as they're just, like, putting cement all around your skull.
I think about that a lot, not a lot, maybe like Roman Empire a lot. I'm like, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could plaster my face or yeah, be makeuped like that. I think I would
Mm.
freak out.
I'm not an
I couldn't
actor,
do
so
it.
I don't have to.
I don't have military training either, like Jim Carrey in The Grinch.
He has military training?
No, he had to like go through like military like training in order to like in terms of like mental military training so that he could withstand being in the mask.
Really? Interesting.
Anyway, getting us
What's
back on
your
track.
number 1? Is it the one that I said?
Oh, I don't know,
Have you
possibly.
have you changed your mind and bumped the one you've always said is your number 1 to number 7?
Like, no way is that ever gonna happen. Yeah, it's Poltergeist, which I just realized as you were talking about Griffin Dunn, I was like, "Oh, yeah, Griffin Dunn's sister
Oh,
is in
yeah. Yeah, she
Poltergeist."
is.
Yes, she is, her last film.
That's sad.
It is
Oh,
sad.
Toby Hooper again.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's why I didn't put TCM on my top
Mm.
6, I guess. Yeah, Toby Hooper and thank you for saying Toby Hooper, not Steven Spielberg, because 'cause I'm very much in the camp of, Toby Hooper. Yes, this is a Spielberg has his handprint in this movie, but Toby Hooper also does, and that's what makes this movie so good, and it is very blatant, and we can talk about it on another at another time about why I think Toby Hooper is very much prominent in this film. Anyway, yeah, Poltergeist is my favorite movie of, like, all time. I think this is another one for me that, like, has rewatchability. I'll go for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the original, by the way. I can't believe I have to say that.
You
Um,
don't have to say that.
look, a remake exists.
Yes.
People are young
Allison,
and we
she
might
meant
not.
the original, obviously. We always mean the original, Allison.
I do wanna cover the remake at some time, actually, at some point.
Oh, interesting. I've never
Yeah,
seen the
I've thought,
remake.
"Oh." I mean, it's not great. But anyway,
I think that's why I haven't seen
yeah. Yeah. But this film no, I mean, this film covers grief very heavily, but I think it also very much covers suburbia, 80s classism, capitalism, politics, all of that fun stuff that we love talking about and have heavily discussed in this past year. Is 80s American films, I think, has been the topic for our past year at Cadaver Dogs.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
I guess.
But it but I think it also, like, does such a good job of showing just a family coming together under really dire circumstances. I mean, the Freeling parents, watching them as a couple is so fascinating because they're so in love and they go through this trauma. It's about this little girl gets taken away into a supernatural world. She goes missing, and this family tries to find her in the simplest terms. And yeah, just watching the parents come together and go through this torment is really not exciting. It's just beautifully done, and I love that there's, like, I don't know, a happy I don't wanna give away the ending. There's there's a full arc. It isn't necessarily a happy ending. Um, and it really does talk about the American dream, and I know I say this every time I talk about Poltergeist, but there's Steven Spielberg very much wanted to create the American dream, which was E.T., and the American nightmare, which was Poltergeist.
Interesting.
Yeah, and very much focuses on the kid's POV, which I find really brilliant, and he thought, "Oh, yeah, finding an alien in your backyard is the ultimate kid dream." I'm like, "Okay, Steven Spielberg, maybe for you." Um, and then losing your child, under questionable circumstances and never knowing whether or not they're alive or dead seems very much the American nightmare, especially in the early '80s.
Hmm.
And the effects are so well done, and
Mm.
I think they do a really beautiful job where I mean, Steven Spielberg is one of my favorite horror directors, and I know he didn't direct this, but, he does such a good job of making you afraid, and I think it's because he puts you in just the POVs that he puts you in. I'm meandering around this because like, don't wanna give anything away, but, like, there's so much beauty in it that I really enjoy, is essentially what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, yeah, I hear all that. It's a good movie.
It's a really fucking good movie.
Have people not seen it now?
I feel like a lot of people haven't seen this film. I don't know, I
It
feel
was
like it's
such a
not one that's
staple
talked.
at some point. Yeah,
Yeah,
at
it
some
kinda
point it was
gets
such a staple.
lost.
Yeah, just like in the movie.
Very well done. The effects are so good, dude, though, come on. I mean, and Poltergeist 2 has H.R. Geiger effects, like,
Oh,
ugh.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2nd and 3rd were both fine, but they don't hold up anything to the first one. The first one's so much
No.
better, obviously.
Not to say that they're not worth watching. I do enjoy number 2 and number 3.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of the ones where, like, I can watch the sequels and be like, "This is a thing," but if I'm watching the original again, then I'm not thinking of the sequels as being, like, part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're definitely their own thing.
Yeah, I don't, like, fully recognize them as canon. Because in the 3rd one, aren't they, like doesn't the entire family get split up in the 3rd one? I'm like,
It's
that's a
yeah.
bummer."
It's just Carol Ann in the 3rd one.
Which is, like, just because they couldn't get the actors or something, like, that's I'm not accepting that. I like this
I
movie, but
know.
I'm not accepting that as canon.
It's such a good setting, though, like, overall, I really enjoy the film of the 3rd one, but, yeah, I just don't care
Yeah,
for the characters as
yeah,
much. What
definitely.
are you gonna do? Okay, I'll stop fangirling. What's your number 1?
It's Rosemary's Baby.
I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. I feel so stupid.
You're good.
Why didn't I remember these 2 on your top lists? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely thought you were gonna guess those 2.
No, I should have. I definitely should
It's
have.
okay. I love Rosemary's Baby. Director is more problematic this time. Um,
More so than John Landis?
yeah, I mean, John Landis killed some people through negligence. Roman Polanski molested some children through on purpose. Um, so
Yeah, yeah.
but that aside, this is an amazing fucking movie, and, like, I bring up the Polanski stuff because it's weirdly relevant since the movie is, like, about that, kind of, not about children, but about sexual assault, and it almost is this very interesting take on it because he humanizes all the characters, like, all the villains feel like people, and I think the horror of the movie is that you just believe everything that's happening, that you fully
Yeah,
believe, like, this is these people are absolutely capable of this. They don't present like they're capable of it. When you meet them, they just seem like ordinary, weird people, but then they're capable of terrible, horrible things, and you believe that Rosemary is blind to it, you believe all the gaslighting that happens,
mhm.
if when I first saw the movie, I was fully gaslit by all of it. It's a movie that very much can gaslight the viewer as well into
Yeah.
being like, "Oh, well, maybe it wasn't that bad," and it's like, "No, it is. It's pretty bad."
No, but and I think, like, so much of that comes through the character, though, as well as, like, the whole she wants to believe, she doesn't wanna believe, I think,
Yeah,
is done in a way that isn't offensive to her character or to her being a woman, I think, like which ultimately I think also feeds into the ending without spoiling it,
yeah.
or the openness of the ending, I guess.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, her arc is sort of her learning to assert herself and becoming more independent and standing up to the people who are gaslighting her or wronging her in whatever way. But at the same time, she never like loses her personality to it. Like she has a more
Yeah,
feminine personality. She very much embodies this like 60s housewife persona, and she never loses that even as she is becoming the stronger person. And I think that's great because it's not a binary. It's not an either or. It's a no, you can still be who you are and just also be strong at the same time. That it
yeah,
doesn't portray her femininity as weakness.
yeah, yeah, which I love. Oh, that movie is so good.
It's so good.
It's
It
so good.
it's a movie that also really holds up on rewatches because there's so much that just slips right past you when you first see it because you don't know what's happening yet. So it's you things seem really mundane, and then when you go back and rewatch, you're like, oh, this is where this happened. This is where this
Yeah,
happened. This is where this happened. It is all from her perspective. Rosemary is in every scene in the movie. Most shots don't even break perspective. Like we very rarely even get to see something that she doesn't see. There's like maybe one or two shots where it breaks. So we're completely in her head the entire time. We aren't given any information that she does not have. And we're following her conspiracy logic completely because of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been 3 years of making
Wow.
the show, dude.
That's so cool. We've been doing this for 3 years.
I know.
I don't know if I ever thought we'd get this far.
I know, I definitely thought that we'd be like, "Okay, life is starting to pick up again." But this is just I don't know, I always have so much fun with you doing this
Same.
stuff, and I know it's a lot of work, but I'm happy that we get to do this every so often and have really built a community around it,
Yeah.
which is so much fun.
It's a lot of work, but I'm proud of the work we've done.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I feel like I learn more every time.
same. I feel like my brain doesn't go into, like, jello because I get to study for these movies every month.
Brain is lime green jello needy.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, man.
Okay, well, before we go though, I do want to shout out that it just so happens, perfectly timing, that we have covered 99 films on this podcast so far.
Yeah, so next month for our 100th film, we're doing a special episode. It will be just us, and we are covering only one movie, which we've never really done. So that's interesting. Although the
Yeah.
99 movies, I think, includes our reviews, right? The few mini reviews
Yes.
that we've done. Yes. Which
Yes.
we always want to do more of, but it's hard for us to watch those at like the same time and then record fast enough to get it out without, while it's still relevant. Yeah.
It is very hard. Oh, but if you do want us to cover more of those reviews, if you're listening on Spotify, I'm gonna put it in a poll on Spotify. So
Oh, cool.
just if you open up the episode, vote there if you want us to cover more reviews of single films.
And we'll see how this one next week goes when we analyze a single movie for the first time.
Yeah, I think this one will be a good one to cover just singular because it's long and there's a lot that happens in it, and it's a very classic film.
And it's been
I'm just gonna
analyzed to
say it.
death. Yeah.
It's analyzed to death. We're gonna cover The Shining as our 100th movie.
Yes. The Shining.
Okay, you all probably have listened to us talk about ourselves enough. So thank you for celebrating 3 years with us on the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you
To
for
three
sharing.
more.
To 3 more, dude. All right. Well, we'll see you months later. Again, hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter at cadaverdogspod or cadaverdogspodcast. See you, mutts.
Peace. What's your favorite scary movie? Is
Duh.
there any other ghost face I should do, or is that
No, I mean, that's
it's
perfect
too
because that's
obvious?
literally the
Yeah.
episode.